Welcome back. This is your host, Noura Masri, and this is Echoes of Impact with Noura. We were talking to my friend Brittany C about the freeze in federal funding and that how is that affecting every aspect in our life and our state. So if you're a nonprofit, if you are on government assistance, it's gonna possibly affect your life. But for right now, it's the the executive order itself on freeze because Brittany mentioned that there is a restraining order on would you say like on the order itself or on the President Trump? I don't know.
Both. It's a temporary restraining order on both the president and what he was trying to do to basically push this executive order to go,
Mhm.
because it this can't happen, and especially suddenly. There has to be things involved. There has to be measures in place. There has to be things involved in order to make it happen.
Mhm. Absolutely. So how long is that freeze for? Like the restraining order for?
Right now, the restraining order is indefinite, so whenever the judge decides to lift it. But that's why I mentioned what I mentioned earlier. We're out of the park, not out of the woods. Because at any moment, should the judge agree with our President Donald Trump, that freeze will be in effect, and then there would be very little to do to stop it once it starts.
Hopefully it won't start. But in your opinion, how do you see it happening? I mean, just in your opinion, from what you know about grants and everything. So what do you think will happen?
What I believe would happen is what I kind of mentioned earlier. The only people that would really be giving the funding would be private donors, philanthropists, those who are already established as nonprofit organizations that help other people, maybe with in kind, they have supplies, but the other nonprofits that were solely rely on federal funding would be affected, or they would have to shut down practically overnight, and anyone else attached to that. Also, if this is gone, how will like how will we start advocating for women or the LGBTQ or any other source that is a government source? For example, our friends in California, we know they've been having out of control wildfires. FEMA, which is government funding, is there to help rebuild their homes. Without FEMA, how will the people get to safety, and how will they continue to build if whatever insurance is not covering for them?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, things like this will never pass through. Like I don't think, and that's just my opinion. I would be surprised if he was able to put this in effect. But we always have to be ready. Because I was telling my kids this morning, like, well, we in the beginning, or in the first term of President Trump, we were all like overreacting with every executive order he does. But we found out like gladly and thankfully in the United States, the president doesn't have that much power. Even if he does an executive order, there's a law he cannot break. So I'm hopeful and I hope that does not go through because it's going to stop everyone's life, literally. And it's going to affect our safety as American and everyone who lives in America, regardless of their nationality and background. So I hope I don't think this is gonna go through, but that does not mean not to get ready. I feel like whenever something happened, this is a message telling you, hey, anything could happen. So you better be prepared and have a plan B. And like you said, Brittany, like be ready with donors, be ready with other funding opportunities for your business. Maybe if you are working with governments, well, have some other alternative. But let me ask you this because that brought me another question, and I know you know more than me about it. government contracting. Does that affect government contracting as well?
I believe it would because the majority of it is federal funding.
Mm.
The best part of government contracting that I'm currently doing and I grew to love is whatever you're doing now, whether you're a business or maybe you're doing this part-time with government contracting. You have your regular 9 to 5, but you're doing GovCon as much as you can on the side. The payout is so much larger because that is the mandate from the government to partner with small businesses and give them a larger payout because they get hundreds of trillions of dollars in all the time. And that spending goes towards a lot. Think of our military, think of our airlines, think of, and I'm trying to think as big as I can. Think of NASA. Without federal funding, we can't go to the moon, we can't go to Mars. We would be disarmed with our army if we ran out of weapons or try to use old weapons. So you see what kind of problems we would have. We would ultimately be defenseless in the event this stops.
Well, that tells me like it's never gonna happen, right? Because Elon Musk wants to go to Mars, and the president wants to send him there. So probably this is not this is not gonna happen. We'll see. We'll see. We're here watching. But Brittany, I want you to tell the people who are not familiar with government contracting, what does that mean? And so maybe there are some people there like, okay, what does she mean? Like what government's contract?
What does she mean by government contracting? I'm so glad you asked. It's a part, I don't want to say it's private. It's just not, it's one of those, I hate to say exclusive clubs, but it's one of those, if you don't know much about it, you won't get in it. Um but the only way to get into it or at least scratch the surface is by joining Apex Accelerator. I tell anyone about it because the way they break it down is way better than what I'm doing. But as I mentioned earlier, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into that, the government has so much money that they get in, hundreds of trillions of dollars, super huge money. This funding will go, as I mentioned before, to our military to help them with weapons. It also goes to small businesses. So if you are a business owner, and let's just say your regular job is teaching, you're a professor, or you often give workshop presentations. And let's say you charge a just a small fee for those presentations. With the government, whatever you're charging on your own, the government is going to pay you out probably hundreds of thousands or millions for the things that you're already doing, and that's why it's so popular. That's why if you heard it now, everyone's trying to get to the government contracting, everyone's trying to get to the federal funding, everyone's trying to do that because we're now just catching on that, oh, the payout is so much higher over there than what I'm doing. But here's the other thing, the funding from the private sector, who they depend on donors, they depend on philanthropists, their funding may not be as much as the government. The competition may be a little higher because with the government, the competition is lower, but they're still sustainable.
Mhm.
And they may also, the philanthropists themselves may get maybe 10-20% of government funding, and the rest comes from them because the philanthropists themselves are already multi-billion and trillionaires themselves. They don't have as much as the government, but they do have what they have. So it's a lot that goes into this, and crunching numbers and doing it is not easy, but it is worth it. Just to give you an idea of how how much is included in this. And another thing I wanted to say is none of what I'm saying, government contracting, federal funding, even philanthropy, none of this is a secret. All of this is public information. You can Google everything that I'm saying because it's out there for the public. You can also visit sites like usaspending.gov and sam.gov, grants.gov to get more information about it.
I just want to say be careful on the site you're visiting. That whatever Brittany mentioned, those are secured sites, but be careful.
Yes.
Like maybe .com is different than .gov, different than .net. So like you see a lot of things that can be scamming to you. So make sure you are looking at the right website. And if you do not know, or you're not sure if you're looking at the right thing, you can reach out to Brittany and ask her about the information. She's been working and studying about this for a long time now. I personally, whenever something I want to know regarding government contracting, grants, federal funding, I go back to Brittany to verify, because this is what she does. And actually, she has a legal background, so she knows a lot of things as well. So I'm a tax professional. I go work and research on this because people come to me, but I go to also other professionals like Brittany when I want specific things. So be careful, don't be scammed with other people, and stay with us. We're gonna be back with Brittany, but right now we're gonna take a short break, and we'll come back after that to talk more to Brittany and to get a lot of more knowledge from her. This is your host, Noura Masri, and this is Echoes of Impact with Noura. We'll be right back.